All right, we're calling the Albany County Legislature Personnel Committee to order for October 24th. I'm your chairman, Mark Grimm. To my left is Vice Chair Lynn Lakakis. Sean Ward.
How are you? Here.
I'm just going to call so people know who the members are, if that's all right.
I'm sorry, here.
Richard Touche.
Here.
Raymond Joyce.
Here.
Allison McLean Lane.
Here.
Lucille McKnight.
Here.
Send a text to Brandon.
Joseph O'Brien.
Here.
And Travis Stevens. Okay, first order of business is the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. McKnight, second.
Second.
Mr. Ward, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? First item on the agenda, Resolution 231, requiring the Department of Human Resources to initiate a pay equity study. Is the sponsor here? No? Tabled? Item 2, Resolution 283, promoting an Albany County employment and promoting a diverse workforce by requiring a civil service to conduct outreach and training. Sponsor available? No? Tabled. Item 3, Resolution 495, amending and updating the affirmative action policy for the County of Albany. Ms. McKnight, would you like to
Yes,
speak to
it
that?
is here. We passed, I think, last month, 495, which was the initial backup for the resolution, and for the policy called the 2018 Albany County Affirmative Action Equal Employment Plan. And I think this is for the Division of Albany County Human Resources Affirmative Action Department. Or division, I don't know which one we're gonna go, division or department, maybe division,
Okay.
under human resources. But what we've been working with the legal counsel is to amend, update, insert new information, and it's quite a big 70-page document that they've been working for over a year, and they've done a wonderful job. I don't know if they're ready to get one this big yet. Is it in the backup?
It is in the backup.
It's in the backup. If you look and see, some of this has been underlined, deleted, worked in, watered down. And I know you haven't had a chance to read it all, so I was hoping everyone could take it home and review it and see if they can mark it up, see if you see some changes you think is necessary to follow federal and state guidelines. And we can come back with the next meeting with more discussion. Please.
Thank you.
Yeah, I went through all 70 pages,
Of course you did.
and it's a lot of work.
I know.
I want to thank all the people, there's a lot of work went into it, so I want to thank you and all the folks who were involved in that.
Well,
Mr. Ward?
Has this been sent to us electronically? I thought I read some of it, but has it been
It's
sent in
on
a
the,
format where we could suggest
It's on the website under
changes?
agenda, and under, if you read, it's under agenda, that's where I found it.
Yeah, but that was in PDF form. Is there somewhere where we can suggest changes, track changes type
We can
thing?
send a Word document.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. McLean.
Thank you, Chairman Grimm. I just want to say, Lucy, you've been talking about this issue, pardon me,
ever since you've been here, I guess.
1999.
Holly McKnight, I apologize.
McKnight.
You have been talking about this issue in the 5.5 years I've been in this body, and I know that you have worked extraordinarily hard on this, and I know that it is appreciated by everybody at this table, if not the whole body. So thank you very much for all your hard work. It's obviously come to fruition, and I look forward to a finished product.
Good. Well, this is a time in our history throughout America where we're getting all the people coming in from foreign countries, and we're dealing with a lot of nationalities of people. They have different needs, a lot that we have to meet in Human Services Department. We've got to make sure we can get their language down and get their education up and teach them how to live in America if they're coming in from wherever, Bangladesh or Kuwait, where you name any country, because they're coming from everywhere. We got caravans coming to America. So we will be getting them here in Albany County. So we have to be prepared to deal with all relationships and all kind of nationalities of people. And they're having a hard time dealing with me. I'm called an African American, a Negro, or whatever else you want to call me, but I'm still just Lucy. And we're going to get this right one way or the other, okay?
One of the changes from 100,000 to 250, I noticed, well, that was one of the significant changes.
That's the one where you're talking about the money in the project labor agreement.
Yeah.
I think that was settled. I think they settled on 250 for now. I don't know if it's going to vary with different projects. I can't remember all this stuff in my brain. It's getting old now.
Yeah, if you
He can have
That's it, that's
We
the
can
one
negotiate.
portion of the MBE policy. So
It's only MBE.
Lucy's, the primary goal of Lucy over the last however long has been to update the affirmative action program. The one change we made was in line with the chairman's resolution, which we recently enacted a month or so ago, which sets the limit at $250,000. So that's in line with what the chairman's resolution regarding labor agreements was. Aside from that, there's been no changes.
That's more in the contract compliance on the construction jobs and things like that, you know, not so much as daily utilization of the program, which we look for to right-sizing, equality and work and housing and everything else that we might do business with.
So does bumping the threshold, will that create more opportunity for smaller folks?
We hope so.
Small business, yeah.
Okay, okay. So what do you want to do with this?
Well, like you say, if you want to pass it, you can, of course, but I was hoping everybody get a chance to read it and understand it.
Is that we just tabled it so it's everyone's
Well, I
together, or
would
you
be
want to vote
happy.
tonight? What does the committee want to do?
What's your flavor?
If you're happy with it.
Oh, I am, because I've been working on it, but you can understand, it's in the back. If anybody can't find it or look at it, but
Mr. Chairman, in line with what Ms. McKnight has indicated, I do have, minor comments, not substantive modifications I'd like to discuss with council so that when you are ready to pass it, you actually have something that's a little bit more complete. So if it was adjourned for a month for everybody else, and Mr. Ward sounded like he may have some commentary, then we can incorporate everything into the final version.
Okay, Mr. Bergdorf.
I'm not a member of the committee, but I'm obviously very interested in this subject having to do with MBE utilization and compliance. And while I have not read the 80 pages, I would like to take an opportunity to do it. Because I would hope that one of the things that we could do is make sure in the document that it's clear who in the county will be responsible for compliance for goals, so that it's not just saying we have goals, but there's a mechanism by which people can go forward to make sure that those goals are pursued in good faith.
Okay, I think, why don't we table it, if that's
That's
okay?
your mouth,
And
yeah.
so everybody has a chance to come back with some questions
and we
next
can have
time.
our human resources person come to the next meeting.
Yeah.
She's the key point in this,
Yeah.
she and the affirmative action director, okay?
Okay, do you have to vote on the table? or is it-
I know she's.
Sponsor's table, okay, tabled by sponsor. All right, thank you, Ms. Knight, very much.
Thank you.
Resolution 497, adopting a policy regarding the legislative summer internship program. The sponsor, Mr. Ethier, stepping in, Mr. Signoranti for him tonight. Mr. Signoranti.
I'm a much better looking but less entertaining version of the Cohoes legislators. I'll be brief because I would not even be able to have the words that my esteemed colleague, Mr. Ethier, would have. So we're looking to have this resolution 497 moved out this evening for a floor vote. And I look to this committee to wind up putting it out with favorable recommendation, but we will take any recommendation to get it on the floor. And I thank you for your time.
Now, Ralph, this is one intern per representative.
Correct. The intent of this is to wind up having one legislative intern per legislative district. And this is something that Mr. Ethier, Legislator Ethier, feels very strongly in, and I'm here to help shepherd this through to.
Okay.
I just have a clarification, just a brief clarification for
Yes, sir.
members. It's a minimum of one position, but up to two. That's the change that Gil made, based on, obviously, the number of interns that we get from each legislative district, but Ralph's correct, that it's a minimum of one is the right.
Mr. O'Brien, thank you.
Ralph, you were involved in the intern program for a number of years, correct?
Yes, sir.
Was there any problem prior to this year?
There was never a problem when we were involved, and I don't believe that there was ever a problem the 2 years after, and I don't believe that there has been any problem currently since the program was initiated. This is just
But you're mandating, or Gil's legislation is mandating each member to get, based on what?
Based on his belief that everybody should wind up having one.
What if that one is not as qualified for that position?
It is the chief sponsor's intent that if there is a qualified individual that they would have, but there's one person that winds up getting, it's a placeholder. And if there's nobody that shows up and it winds up having 0 people then it moves to the next thing, but it's to have a placeholder of at least one guarantee for each legislative spot.
Okay, Mr. Joyce and then Mr. Ward.
Okay. I think I asked Gil this question last time this came through. Have we ever not hired anybody that applied for the internship
Yes.
for reasons that they weren't qualified or
Didn't show up or something?
Didn't show up.
they didn't show up?
Didn't call.
But have we ever hired anybody that went through the process and wanted to be hired?
To the best of my knowledge, Mr. Joyce, there has never been anybody that was ever denied
75,
an
yeah.
opportunity. There has never been anybody that, besides for not showing up, quitting, or whatever else, but there was never any individual that wound up, was denied access.
My only concern with this is that there's probably some districts where some of the applicants, there's probably a greater percentage of applicants that need this internship program than others. Maybe some districts you could have 6 applicants where maybe my district might have 1, maybe none.
Absolutely.
So I'd hate to limit a district from applying if,
The original intent was that the majority of, and I only speak from when I was there with the program, the majority of the applicants were from the lower wards in the city of Albany, and they were primarily from the city of Albany, and the majority of them were from the lower wards.
and you're limiting those wards now.
Well, they would still have a guarantee of one, but you may have areas that the hill towns may not send anybody down, people in Altamont may not send anybody down, so there's a minimum of one and a maximum of 2.
Mr. Ward?
Am I reading this correctly, that if a district, say my district has no applicants, I can give it to somebody else, whoever I feel like?
I believe that is the intent. I did not
Okay.
draft the legislation. I defer to council on that they can, not to say trade off, but it could go to a different district that has multiple needs.
Now you're talking wheeling and dealing, that's a whole nother level.
That's what, yeah, it says
Part of that
be designated to another district of their choosing, which I see some,
This month, you can't have an intern.
Hey, you want my intern ticket?
Is that's something that was newly added, right?
That was newly added,
Is there, I don't want to put you on,
Lines and things here, that, don't we have a process
There's
of
no-
how we know what's changed?
That doesn't apply.
Is this legal?
That
It's not the same
doesn't,
one, separate.
just to clarify, that doesn't apply unless you're amending a resolution that's currently in the system.
got some intern jobs.
You're doing a great job with the fact
can I ask another?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, Mr. Signoraci, I know you're filling in. Relative to the same question, what is the reason for doing that, I guess?
I was not the original drafter,
okay.
and I do not know the intent, so I
you
cannot
know?
speak to that. I apologize.
Can we table this, and because this main sponsor, you can't answer.
You can't answer that.
The main
There's a
sponsor.
motion on the floor for Mr. O'Brien to table.
Just to let the committee know that the one thing that we did wind up speaking about with the sponsor is that we are going to invoke the 60-day rules, so if it's not passed out this month, we'll be looking for passage by our rules next month for a November, and the
Well,
November.
I would
committee.
suggest the main sponsor be here so he can answer the questions you can't.
Now, first of all, Mr. O'Brien has a motion on the floor to table. Is there a second to the table?
Second.
Ms. McKnight? Okay. Any further discussion?
So just to be clear, Mr. Signoraci, under Resolution 337, which was recently passed over the summer,
Can serve.
has been designated as Mr. Ethier's representative. This body voted and passed that resolution. He has full rights to act as Mr. Ethier's representative. He's invoked the 60-day rule, so regardless of whether or not the committee tables it, Mr. Signoraci, as Mr. Ethier's representative, has invoked that rule, and this will have to move out in November.
I just want to add, despite the couple, I only have one question really on this. I don't mean to hold this up. I have no objection to send it out. without recommendation, find out the answers ahead of time and even debate it on the floor.
Well, how do the other members feel about sending this out?
Wait a minute, there was a motion on the floor, she seconded. We
I
should-
second the table.
There is a motion to table and a second to table. All those in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Tables.
How'd you vote, Mr. Joyce?
Opposed.
Okay.
Opposed.
2 opposed. Ward and Joyce opposed.
What do you need, one more? Can I change my vote?
Table?
Yeah.
Table
There you
it?
go.
You're opposed to tabling it?
We'd rather send it out without recommendation.
I'd rather have this main sponsor here answer the questions that Ralph can't answer.
There's only
Taking
one
a vote.
question, and I can ask him
The
myself.
vote was
really.
I believe the vote was 6-2 to table, okay? So the motion is tabled. The motion here.
20.
Thank you very much, and I'm sorry I was not as
No, I think
it was
entertaining
three.
as Mr. Ethier.
Thank you.
Yes.
Who are the 3 no's?
Joyce,
McLean Lane, Joyce,
McLean Lane, Ward.
All right, thank you, Mr. Signorazzi.
We can hear what he's basically saying is he doesn't care what
I think
he doesn't want it. He wants to vote on it in 60 days. You already told me that.
Okay.
There's a lot of flaws.
All right, order, please. Can I have some order? Thank you.
The spirit is there.
Number 5, resolution 498, requiring the posting of job descriptions for certain Albany County positions to the Albany County website. Can I have order, please? On this resolution, that's a resolution sponsored by Mr. Graham. We've had some issues in the past where someone was, appointee was before us and we didn't have their job description. In fact, the last meeting, the job description was handed out just before and it says go ahead and vote. So my resolution calls for posting the job description and the salary line on both the county website and in the RLAs, so when we first read the RLAs, we know what the job description is, we know what the salary range is. Mr. Ward,
What jobs are we requiring to be posted?
these are all the political appointees that come before us for approval.
Political appointees?
Vote, required to vote.
Non-civil service.
Non-competitive civil service. So, I mean, the separately electeds have the power to appoint on their own. Are we
Anything we-
usurping their powers
The point is,
under the
anything that we're
charter?
asked to approve, we should know what the job description and the salary is in the paperwork.
So we're talking commissioners then,
All the ones that we're asked to approve, yeah.
which are only commissioners. So those that are confirmed by the legislature, is that?
I don't know if it's only committee, I think there may be board positions.
Well, there may be some directors.
Anything comes before the committee, we want to be fully informed prior to the meeting.
Okay, I have no objection to that, but non-civil service is different, non-competitive is a different animal in itself. And those, I don't know if we're usurping the appointment powers of the separately elected officials. I don't think we should do that.
No, we're not usurping the appointment powers of anyone, we're asking for disclosure prior to the committee votes.
And that's only on those that are
Yeah,
confirmed.
this is clearly disclosure. Post on the county website, put in the RLA.
I have no objection to those that we confirm, but those that are, separately appointed that we don't have any part of the process, I don't know if we have the right to do that. I'm not an attorney, I'm just thinking.
Okay.
I'm thinking affirmative action plan speaks to a person that is employed,
Yeah.
they come to protected class hiring and being considered.
Mhm.
I think there is something in that about that. There's something in there about that, so.
Well, it does have to go through
Those two things to be
the,
looked at, that process.
Yeah.
Have you considered any people from other racial groups and how
Right.
did they fare on the interview and how did they score? Did they get the job? And they would have to say yes or no. That's
Right.
all part of the form. So I think that's very simple.
Honest,
oh, that is.
go ahead.
To Mr. Ward's question, the resolution is specific that it's pertains to those positions that are subject to the legislature's approval under Section 209 of the Charter.
Okay,
Commissioners.
okay. I don't have a problem.
Mr. Joyce?
Where exactly on the website are we posting this, though? I'm just envisioning the website, and I just don't know if it'd be under,
Put it in there.
Human resources.
right, so it'd be in the legislative, okay.
you know, so just so people are aware of the job and what the job description is, what the salary can be. So it's not just on our LOAs, it's open to anybody in the public. Yeah.
So it would be in the portion of the website that's sort of under the oversight of the executive?
It would be under under whatever the appointed positions are, yes, it would be there.
Okay.
I think we'll also come through our.
Well, they're on the RLAs. It states right in
Yeah,
here, it
that's
has
what-
to be on the
What was
RLAs.
frustrating me is that we were reading the RLAs, we didn't have the job description.
Oh, okay.
And we got it, last meeting, we got it passed out just before the meeting, and I think there was some frustration with that. Yeah.
Mary has to have the salaries posted, so.
What, is there a motion? Mr. Ryan?
Go ahead.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Ms. McKnight? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Item 6, Resolution 499, rules and regulations for Albany County employees regarding longevity pay. Previously, I proposed, first of all, a little bit about longevity pay. It's once you've been here a certain time, there's a certain incremental increase in pay. The idea behind it is to be able to keep seasoned employees over a long period, and also it's part of a negotiation with management and union saying, okay, longevity pay is part of the package. I don't believe this was ever envisioned for elected officials, and in most cases, elected officials are not given longevity pay. However, that is the case in Albany County. My original proposal was to change it. There were a couple of current elected officials who were unhappy, feeling, this wasn't the rules when they came in. So I've changed this to grandfather all the current elected officials. So this will not apply to them as long as they hold the office. So any new entry into office will be aware of what the rules are, and longevity pay will not be part of the compensation, which is difficult to determine sometimes because the salary of the elected official is listed. The longevity pay is listed as both agency by agency, so you can't really be sure of what the longevity pay is for the elected official. Any questions?
I'm not sure how I feel about longevity pay for elected officials. I think there's been my understanding is this has been going on for at least 20 years, or they've only looked back about 20 years. And so it becomes an issue where there's a previous practice.
I'm not sure a lot of members are even aware of it.
No, I was not aware of it.
And
in fact, although I would...
because it's not listed in the budget, and I go everything
Yeah.
to the budget.
The legislators are full-time, they have full-time status, and I don't think it was ever offered to a legislator. And I'll state for the record that I wouldn't accept it if it was offered.
Yeah. Exactly.
But I think there's been some discrepancies here. But I think we could, by grandfathering some elected officials in, I think we're creating a bigger discrepancy. I think we have to either decide that we're going to do it or we're not. Now, the argument for keeping it as is there are some of the elected officials that were county employees beforehand that probably did receive longevity pay. And now they are not going to get it. If we decide against elected officials getting it, then they wouldn't get it.
Yeah, but your status changed. Once you become elected, your status changes.
That's correct.
So do, the powers of office and perks and everything else that go with an elected position. So the issue I have is longevity pay is an incentive to keep someone in their job. So we're using taxpayer money as an incentive to keep elected officials in their job. I think that...
I don't think it's an incentive.
Sure.
I think
that's the purpose of longevity pay.
it's an employee benefit.
Well, that's, the benefit is incentive.
And elected officials are entitled to some employee benefits, whether we like it or not.
And they get all the employee benefits,
Yeah.
typical with other words, except longevity pay. That's the issue. Is that
Well,
appropriate?
that isn't accepted. They are getting it,
Yeah, well,
according to the employee
in most
handbook, of which they are
Most
employees.
jurisdictions, that is not the case. And I believe Albany County should be with most of the other governments and not have longevity pay for elected officials.
So, and I understand that, and that's why I'm saying, I think it's either an employment practice, we either do it or we don't. I don't think we go halfway.
Well, Mr. Burglar.
I'm a sponsor of this, and I realize I'm not on the committee, but I've had some conversations with Mark about this, and here are my feelings. I have no problem. I don't want to hurt anyone who's an elected official. I think the best thing that we could do would be to take their longevity pay, work it into their base, go forward, so that everybody is maintained and made whole, and then the job has that in it, for the foreseeable future. I'm not so sure that if you were a custodian for 10 years, that should give you an extra $3,000 or $4,000 should you become the commissioner of finance. I'm not sure that one has anything to do with the other. But there is one thing here, and I don't mean to single out one position that always, when I thought about it, made me a little bit uncomfortable. And I don't begrudge anybody making a good living. But we're always told that we have to pay the district attorney a judge's salary. Well, now it turns out that the district attorney gets a judge's salary and longevity pay. So shame on us, our compensation is now more than all the judges, when the justification for the district attorney's salary is it's got to be linked to judges. So you got this non-transparent compensation that appears to have some unintended consequences. So, how do you extricate yourself from that? Well, I think if we had the proper will, we could say in this year's budget, we could, or I don't know if you can do it during someone's term, you could make something part of a base for the future, but then you wouldn't have to be dealing with this. And everybody would know what everybody makes, and the next person who comes in would make the same thing, which is pretty much what it's like in most other levels of government. My 2 cents.
Do we have enough votes to send this to the floor without recommendation? Would anyone object to that?
I'm opposed.
Opposed? Mr. Ward?
I think I'm opposed to the way this is written, but I wouldn't oppose to send it to the floor and get it out.
Okay. Is there a motion to send to the floor without recommendation? Okay. Is there a motion to defeat it, to vote it down? Or is there any motion, let's put it that way?
Could you clearly define what particular items are being discussed about this longevity pay issue?
Yeah,
Did you put them in the resolution, every one of them?
it's for each elected officer, and it depends, Lucy, on how long you've been in county service. So
Well, I've been here forever, but I
it
don't.
would vary
count
depending on the person in the office.
Mostly for the
It's for, well, that's what I wanna know, say it.
sheriff,
Say it
DA, I think
The
is
sheriff, the district attorney,
county executive.
Albany County
County
executive,
clerk
And the clerk.
Albany County clerks,
and the controller.
and the controller.
Those
These happen to be all right now Democratic posts, all Democrats. Well, I don't wanna fool around with anybody who's a Democrat, their salary or
Well, I wasn't suggesting we do that either.
I suggested the resolution, because it wasn't just falling out of air. You're the one who brought it up, Paul. You're a Republican.
It's actually a good.
No, Ms. McKnight, let me just clarify.
Yeah.
The current office holders would not be affected.
It wouldn't be
I know
effective.
they won't be.
They're grandfathered, so
Well,
it-
they're all gonna be Democrats from now on, so I don't even know what you're talking about.
from now on, well, we don't know what the future.
Yes, we do.
don't know what the future
Oh,
will
yes,
hold.
we do. We'll get rid of Trump and all his
The point of
puppeteers.
the revision was to not make it personal at all.
Yeah. Well,
How-
things
I don't
like
know
that
how-
makes me get personal,
Okay.
okay?
In actuality, if you made their compensation as part of their base, you'd be helping them with their retirement. Because longevity, from what I understand, is not included in your retirement. So you would actually be helping the sheriff and the controller and the county executive and have transparency.
Well, these people are all 6 figures, so I don't think they're gonna be worrying about
Okay,
some money at retirement. It's
Hey,
6-figure
go ahead.
people.
I think you know, if we were to put it into their base, that means a newly elected official, we'd be paying a higher amount for a newly elected official, which in the long run would cost taxpayers more money. My understanding, do we know what the financial impact of this bill is? I think my understanding, it's about $6,000.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge financial
It's not a
impact.
financial question.
And if you're talking about transparency, I think this issue is pretty transparent now. You know, it was the subject of an article in the newspaper, which these types of articles come out every once in a while about employment benefits and who gets them. You know, I've been around for over 20 years.
They tend to get their articles
Yeah.
in, you know, they tend to have
Yeah.
a Republican flavor to them sometimes, and I'll buy the paper and I'm gonna stop buying if they keep looking like that.
Well, aside from the political ramifications, I think a lot of times we react to the media in with a negative reaction to a media story. And sometimes it's warranted and sometimes it isn't. But I don't see where there's a huge impact here. Our elected officials, it has been determined, are employees as well, and they are subject to all the fringe benefits of an employee, except for the legislature, I guess.
Well, this is not the case in most jurisdictions, so it's to be clear. But absent of a
But
second,
we create the rules here, Mr. Chairman.
absent of a second, the motion fails. I mean,
You want to table it to answer some of these questions for a month? Want to come back with it?
yeah, Ms. McLean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I actually really appreciated this discussion. My colleagues, Mr. Ward and Mr. Bergdorf, have made very good points here, and I do think there is, you know, merit to this. I just think, and I agree with your point, you know, that I'm not opposed to, you know, this in sort of the spirit of it. I do think it bears more conversation. I think Mr. Bergdorf's point was well taken, and then we come up with, well, then we're adding to the retirement cost to the taxpayers over time. I wonder, Mr. Grimm, if it would be possible, I would like to discuss this more, but, you know, to find some, you know, resolution where, you know, this is going to behoove everyone, including the taxpayers.
All right, so there's a motion to table? Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sir?
Ms. McLean Lane, is there a second?
Yes.
I'll second it.
Ms. Lakakis, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? All righty. Thank you for this wonderful discussion.
Here it is.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
So
To
good.
Kick the ideas around.
Good discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
Just speak for me.
Okay,
Tell it like it is.
Any other comments? Okay, a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
The motion to adjourn is from Ms. McLean Lane, second, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? Thank you.